All right. So, chapter 1 is all on elections. So, we're going to talk about 4 different ways to find a winner of an election by the time we're finished with chapter 1. So, the first thing we need to talk about is the basics of an election. You need 3 things to have an election. The first one is a voter. What is a voter?
Someone who shares their opinion on a certain subject.
Someone who shares their opinion on a certain subject. Okay? So, this is a group or individual that participates in an election. How many of you in here are 18? Nobody yet? Please, 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 when you're 18, register to vote.
Why?
Your voice is important.
So we don't end up with another Trump?
Yeah.
Okay, your voice is important. I keep trying to stress this to my husband, and he's still not registered to vote. But I still love him. Okay, so you need a voter. You need someone to go in and say, this is who I want. Okay, we also need candidates. What's a candidate?
The person running?
The person running. The people or things, because we're going to talk about elections of things, being voted on. Okay, you've got to have somebody to pick or something to pick. And finally, you need a ballot. What's a ballot?
Where you vote at.
Where you vote at. How you express your opinion. Nowadays, everything's electronic. You just go and touch. Okay. But they used to be old school paper ballots that you would actually have to fill out back in the day. Which I don't know if that was a lot better or not, considering they now have people that hack into all the electronics and mess with the election and that kind of stuff. But think about how hard it was to sit there and count all those paper ballots for everybody in the U.S.
If you could get like a money counter, you feel me? A money counter's been around for a while. Get yourself a money counter and divide each of the votes or whatever. That should be simple.
True.
What's a money counter?
You don't know what a money
It's
counter
the
is?
thing where you put a stack of money in and it counts your money for you and it's fixed.
Oh, you said a money. Oh, I thought.
Yeah.
Sorry.
So like you put a stack of ones in there and you push the just counting ones
I
and
thought
then
you
it.
meant like a counter, not a counter.
Oh.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So specifically in this chapter, we're going to talk about preference ballots. Okay. So what these are candidates are ranked in order of preference. Candidates are ranked in order of preference. So, for instance, if I give you math, science, history, and English, if you were just doing a regular ballot, you would pick just your favorite subject, which of course is math, right?
Sorry.
Okay. In a preference ballot, you need to put these in order of your preference. So, math being your first choice. Yes.
Sorry.
Okay. Math being your first choice would go on top. Let's say you like English second. So that goes right below it. Okay. And then your next favorite subject may be science, followed by history.
Mish.
So this is a preference ballot. You don't just pick a winner, you order them by your preference. One thing, ties are not allowed. So you can't come to me and say, I like math and I like English and science both in second place. One has to go above the other. Okay? So you can't have anybody tie. Make sense? Good? All right. So what do we do with all of these ballots?
You find all the A's and put them together and find all the B's.
Kind of, but not just all the A's. Okay, so these are all individual ballots here. So this could be Drew's, this is Maya's, this is James. Okay, everybody's individual ballot is up here. This looks a mess and it's hard to deal with. So we do something called creating a preference schedule. So what happens here is we group identical ballots into a simplified table. So what you want to do is you want to pick any random ballot. I'm going to pick the first one. So the order of this ballot is A, B, C, D. So that creates your first column in your table. Now you need to go through and say, okay, how many people voted this exact same way? A, B, C, D. So here's 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7. So right above that column, you're going to put 7. So instead of having 7 individual ballots, you now have one column with a 7 above it. So that tells you that 7 people voted A first, B second, C third, D fourth. You're going to continue on until all of your ballots are now in this preference schedule. So my next one is B, D, C, and A. So there's one of those, 2, and 3. So we put a 3 up there. My next one is C, B, D, and A. And we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 of those.
You got one incident.
And we've got
6.
6.
What is it?
1,
BD.
2, 3, 4, 5.
Oh, yeah.
You good? Okay. And then we've got one lonely one that voted all alone, all by themselves, so they get a 1. So now that looks a lot easier to deal with. Okay. So each column in this is what they call a distinct ballot. Okay. Each column is a distinct ballot because the order is different than every other column. All right, so you'll be able to answer some questions using a preference schedule. The first question you should be able to answer is how many voters are in this preference schedule? How many people voted? How many? 16. Okay, I have 7 people that voted the first column, plus 3 people that voted the second column, 5 in the third column, and 1 in the last. So there's 16 total voters. How many distinct ballots are in this preference schedule?
Oh,
Distinct.
4. Every column is a distinct ballot because the order is different, okay? All right, let's see what you do with the next one. Which candidate received the most third place votes? So we're only looking at third place. We're only looking at this row. Which candidate received the most? C. How many votes did C get?
2.
No. I agree that it is C.
Oh, you got 10 technically.
They
right?
got 10. Remember, just because it shows up in third place in 2 columns, yes, but 7 people put C in third here, and 3 people put them here. So C has 10 third place votes. Okay. D has 5 and B has 1. So please be careful with that. That is one of the most missed questions because they don't pay attention to how many are at the top. Which candidate received the least the least second place votes? So now we're in the second place row.
C.
C. No.
B.
Right.
A.
Why is it A?
It's not on
A doesn't show up at all. A
there. Oh,
has
it's the
none.
least.
If they were talking about the fact that just the ones that were in second place, yes, it would be C. But here it's going to be A because they have no votes at all in second place. C has 1, B has 12, and D has 3. We good? Questions? Okay. So here's just a new preference schedule. 6, 8, 4, 3, and 5 across the top. So first question, how many candidates are there? 5. You've got 5 different colors that you had to rank. Each color is a candidate. So there are 5. How many voters
26.
are represented? 26. Again, to get your amount of voters, you add all the numbers across the top, which gives us 26. How many distinct ballots? 5. You've got 5 columns. Which candidate got the most first place votes?
Red.
Red. How many does red have?
10.
10. Red has 10. How many have the least first place votes? What'd you say?
Pink, because it's not there.
Pink, it's not there. Which candidate got the most last place votes? Green. Good. And what about the least last place votes?
I mean, no.
They're all even. Oh, I'm crazy.
Look at the numbers at the
Red,
top.
yeah.
Red. Good.
It's not bad.
Huh?
It's not bad.
What's not mad?
This.
I told you this is unlike anything you've ever done in your life. How are we feeling so far about discrete math now?
If it's just charts, then we good.
A-okay. Okay, so preference ballots, important characteristics. Preference ballots are transitive. Okay, so this says if A is preferred to B and B is preferred to C, then A is preferred to C. What in the world does that mean?
I get it.
Okay, so what this means is basketball is preferred over football, and football is preferred over soccer, which means basketball is preferred over soccer.
It's the top choice.
Okay, football is preferred over hockey, and hockey is preferred over baseball, which means football is preferred over baseball. Okay, that's all that means. Okay. Consider the ballot of 5 sports. Which sport did voters prefer more? Football or baseball? Football. Football comes in second, baseball comes in last. Which did they prefer more, soccer or basketball?
Basketball.
Basketball. Finally, the last thing that you need to know about a preference ballot. If you have to eliminate somebody, the order is not going to change. So what that means is if I go through and we take out football, okay, the order doesn't change. Basketball is still in first. Soccer now moves into second. Hockey goes into third. And baseball is now, well, it's still last, but it's in 4th place now. Okay, so you've just taken your choices of 5 down to choices of 4, and everybody just shifts up into the position above it. Okay, nothing switches out of order. Okay. Okay. Last example and exploratory question for this section. Then we've got one more section to do, and we're done with notes for today, and you guys just get to practice. Okay. A political convention has 1,500 voting delegates, choosing among 3 possible party platforms: liberal, moderate, and conservative. So now they want us to take this word problem and come up with a preference schedule. It says 17% of the delegates prefer L to M and M to C. So let's start with that section first. If they prefer L to M and M to C, what's the first column going to look like?
LMC.
LMC. If it prefers L to M, that means L should come before M, and M's preferred to C, so M should come before C. That's the easy part. How do I figure out the votes that go in the top? Because all it tells me is 17%. That's not a number.
Out of 1,500 though.
How do I find it though?
150 divided by 17?
150 divided by 0.17
Not divided.
or times.
We multiply. Good. To find a percentage of a number, you take that number, we've got 1,500 total people, and we multiply by the percentage as a decimal, which is 0.17. Remember to convert a percentage. 17%, your decimal is here. It goes 2 spaces to the left, and it makes that 0.17. Okay. So if you do this, you get 255. So we now have 255 people that voted this way. We take the second line, 32% of the delegates like C the most and L the least. So what does that column look like? C the most and L the least. CML. C comes first, L comes last, which means M has to fit into the middle. So now I need to find 32%. That goes up in the top here.
It's 40.
So 480 people voted that way. Finally, the rest of the delegates like M the most and C the least.
MLC.
MLC.
Does it give you a percentage?
It does not. How do I find out that last number?
You add.
Yeah, you can add 480 to 55 and subtract it from 51.
Good. We already know how many people were in this column and this column. Well, my total's got to reach 1,500. So if we add these two together and subtract it from 1,500, we get our final answer. So in other words, we need to do 1,500 minus 255 minus 480, and that gives me what?
765.
765. Okay, So 765 questions. All right. So now let's try to get your brains working. Let's see. If there are 3 candidates in an election, just like we just did, is there a maximum number of columns that the preference schedule can have? If yes, what is that maximum number? I'm going to tell you right now. The answer is yes. Okay. So they want to know, how many columns can I have in an election? What can we add?
MCL.
MCL. MCL is not up there. We can add that.
LC.
LCM.
CLM. CM. Just playing.
Is there anything else we can
Maybe
add?
just 2 because, well, maybe it can go 9 because they can all go like 3 times.
But what else can I do with L on the top? We did LMC and LCM. Can we do anything else with L on the top? Is there anything else to switch?
LMC.
We have
Oh, yeah,
LMC.
you do.
Nah.
No. So how many do we have here?
6.
6. I've got these 3 and these 3. So your answer here is yes. There are 6 columns that you can create. 6 distinct ballots. Okay. Okay. 6 columns you can create. So, as always, there is a formula to this. Okay. Your formula for how many distinct ballots you can have is the number of candidates, exclamation point. Does anybody remember what the exclamation point means in math? Because it's not math, I promise. The exclamation point stands for factorialize. So what this means is I have 3 candidates here. So to factorialize it, that means to take 3 times 2 times 1. You start at whatever number it gives you, and you multiply it by every number below that until you get to 1, and you stop. So, in other words, if I had 4 candidates, okay, 4 factorialized would be 4 times 3 times 2 times 1.
24. All right.
You got it. So that's a quick and easy way. Tomorrow I will show you where to find that on the calculator. Everybody needs to get their calculators tomorrow. You are going to need them. Okay, I promise you. Today we can kind of get away with it, but tomorrow you will need them. Questions on section 1.1? All right. Let's get into our first method.
Oh, there's more.
Yep, we're going to do section 1.2 today and we're done. And then you guys can practice.
About the homework?
Yep. Okay. So, plurality method is the first method. Okay. And the easiest one that we do. So, this is the most popular candidate. Well, if they're the most popular candidate, that means that they have the most first place votes. We don't care about who comes in second, third, or fourth in this method. We only care about the top row. So, sorry. If you look at this first row, how many first place votes does candidate A have? 14.
Oh my God.
Oh.
14 people put A in first place. How many first place votes does B have?
4.
4.
10.
C, 11.
11.
C comes in first in the second column as well as the fifth column. So you have 10 people and 1, which gives them a total of 11. And D has 8. So if you had to pick a winner,
A.
A. A is your plurality winner. Okay. They may ask you to do extended ranking. That doesn't require any more work other than you telling me A comes in first, who would come in second? If A comes in first, what candidate would come in second?
C.
C, followed by
D.
D and B. So if they ask you to extend your ranking, not only do you have to give me a winner, you then have to tell me this person comes in second, this person comes in third, and this person comes in fourth. Okay. The last thing we need to talk about in this section, and then we're just going to do some more examples with it, is majority. Okay. So a plurality winner does not have to have the majority of the votes. In order to have a majority of the votes, you need to have greater than half of the votes. So the first thing you need to do is find your majority. In order to do that, I first need to know how many total voters do I have in this election?
37.
37.
Yeah.
So we have 37 total. In order to be a majority, I need to have more than half. So the first thing I need to do is find out how many is half. If you cut 37 in half, you should end up with 18.5. Okay. Majority says greater than that. So what's my next number?
What?
18 and a half. What's my next number up?
19.
19. In order to have a majority, you need to have 19 votes. Obviously, you don't need that for plurality. A won with only 14. So does my plurality winner have a majority number of the votes? No. They still won, but they don't have over half. All right?
That stretch was life for Boston.
Almost done, friends. All right. So basically a summary of what I just said. Plurality winners aren't required to have a majority. But if a majority already exists, then they're automatically the plurality winner. So what is the total number of voters that are in this preference schedule? How many total voters do I have here? 66. Fantastic. There are 66 total voters here. So in order to have a majority, I need how many votes?
66.
34.
Oh.
Remember, more than half.
34.
34. If I cut 66 in half, that gives me 33. And I need more than that, so I need 34.
That's it, without the R. 34.
Which candidate is the plurality winner?
SEC.
SEC. If you combine SECs, they have 32. If you combine Big Ten, they only have 26. So this is SEC. Does that plurality winner also have a majority? No. But that's okay. Majority will come more into play when we do section 1.4, plurality with elimination. Questions? Okay. So without the chart, you should still be able to do this stuff. We've got an election of 40 voters. How many votes do you need to be a majority?
21.
21. Good. Again, you've got 40 divided by 2, which gives me 20. So you need 21. Let's see what you do with this one, though. If you have 4 candidates, okay, you still have 40 voters. If you have 4 candidates, what is the smallest number of votes that a plurality candidate could have?
5. 1, 2,
1.
3.
10 is close.
No.
You are so close. 11.
I was gonna get there.
11. Can you explain to me why? Okay, so think about it. You've got 40 voters. Let's say James.
Oh,
they're
there's 4
splitting
of
the
them.
4.
Okay. She says, duh. All right. So James is a candidate. Maya is a candidate. Drew's a candidate. And Celia is a candidate. Okay. If I split up 40 votes between the 4 of them, they can each have 10 and all tie, correct? Okay. 40 divided by 4 gives me 10. What will give me that pushover to make me win? Just one more, 11. So 40 divided by 4 gives me 10. Everybody would tie with 10. You need that extra push, so you need 11. So then if I add an extra candidate, how many votes would you need if I have 5 candidates to win? 9. 40 divided by 5. That means everybody would tie with 8 votes each. You need that extra push. So you're going to need 9 votes.
Okay.
Last page, and we are finished. All right, same problems, but this time I only have 15 voters. How many do I need for a majority with 15 voters?
8.
8. Okay, 15 divided by 2 gives me 7.5, so I need 8.
Why'd you do 2?
Remember, majority has to be more than half. So you want to cut it in half and see what that number is and push it forward. Okay, if there are 3 candidates, it's 6. If we split it evenly with 3, everybody would tie with 5, so they need that extra push. They need 6. And what about 4 candidates?
It's gonna be 4.
It's going to be 4. You get what? 3.25? 3.75?
All right.
So you're going to need 4.
Let you see our phone.
Any questions on how to find your smallest number? Okay. Last thing we need to talk about is a criterion. So we're going to have 4 fairness criterions that we're going to talk about. The first one is the majority criterion. So it says if candidate X has a majority of the first place votes, then they should be the winner. That makes sense, right? If you have more than half the votes, you should win. So why did Trump win?
His more popular vote.
Hillary had more popular votes.
But
But we got that electoral college.
Yeah, I like
Oh,
And
really?
this is not the first time that it's
Hillary.
happened.
Trump, Hillary. Yeah.
Okay. So the plurality method is going to satisfy this criterion. If I could spell. Okay, it's going to satisfy this criterion, which means that it follows it. Okay, it agrees with it.
And that's a deep marching band. Nice.
Okay. And finally, this last example, we have a 100-member marching band. that's been invited to 5 different bowl games. If any of you watch college football, that's where this came from. The Rose Bowl, the Cotton Bowl, it's their like ending games that they get to go to. So they've all voted to go to which one? Which one wins plurality in this method?
Rose?
The Rose Bowl. The Rose Bowl has 49, the Hula Bowl has 48, and the Cotton Bowl has 3. So they're going to the Rose Bowl. Isn't the Hula Bowl in Hawaii though?
Oh,
Like, because let me tell you, that's where I want to go. Hawaii. Does this seem like a good representation of where they wanted to go? Why or why not?
No, because they're tied evenly. Well, they're just 1 point off.
Okay, so Zoe says these are just 1 point off. Okay.
It's partly, but
It's partly.
I'm not how that goes.
It's all right. It's partly there.
But H was their second choice.
H was their second choice in column 1 and column 3. Where's the Rose Bowl in columns 2 and 3?
At the bottom.
Dead last. You had more people not want to go to the Rose Bowl, because this is 51 that did not want to go, than wanted to. So that's not fair. So you had more people, this is a no.
I'll tell you.
You have more that don't. Okay, you have more people that don't want to go to the Rose Bowl than you do that want to. So that is one of the problems about the plurality method, which is why they did away with the popular vote. Okay. So the last thing we need to talk about is insincere versus strategic voting, which is something that Zoe's already brought up. So she said, Trump, Hillary, Okay, that was my problem in this entire election. Which one's the lesser of two evils? Because I didn't like either candidate. So when you have people that don't like anybody that's running, guess what? You're going to pick the one that's the lesser of two evils. Okay? Or you're going to pick one that you think everybody else is going to want instead of who you truly want because you don't think your candidate's going to win. So that kind of causes this bias that goes on. Not to mention the Electoral College and that kind of stuff. So insincere voting is voting for someone just because you don't think your candidate is going to win.
Mom used to do the minority rules. One person voted McDonald's and the whole car wanted Domino's. We got McDonald's.
That seems kind of one-sided, isn't
Pretty much.
Yeah, you'd have one happy kid that wanted McDonald's, though.
It was 4 of us in the family, so one person was always happy. Everybody had their day.
Well, I mean, at least it rotated and everybody had their day.
Oh, yeah. But then me and JoJo started getting smart. Hey, bro, what you want to eat? I want McDonald's. I want Burger King. You go to Chick-fil-A. Bad. For real. Smart.
Oh, my. That's awesome.
Or you could just be the last one to go.
Facts, facts.
Any questions on 1.1 or 1.2? Okay. Yeah, we just did 1.1 and 1.2. Look at that. 2 sections done. And like, is your head ready to explode?
No.
No, it's not that bad.
Yeah, but it gets worse as we go.
Hmm.
It was hurt.